Welcome, dear listener, to another journey with Whispering Dreamcatcher. Tonight, we gather beneath the quiet blanket of stars, where stories of the old world still whisper through the trees, and the wind carries the memory of ages long past. Tonight's tale is called The First Fire. It is a story that has been told across generations of Native American peoples, each community weaving its own threads of wisdom and beauty into the legend. At its heart, the story reminds us of the connection between humankind, the earth, and the eternal flame that warms both body and spirit. So, settle into your place of rest. Feel the softness beneath you, the steady rhythm of your breath, and allow your heart to grow calm. As the night deepens, we will step together into the ancient time before fire was known to humankind. Long ago, before the crackling warmth of fire was discovered, the people lived in a world of shadows and chill. The sun rose in the sky each day, blessing the land with its golden rays. But when the sun slipped beyond the horizon, the nights stretched on endlessly, dark and cold. Without fire, the people had no light to guide them through the darkness, no warmth to shield them from the icy winds, no flame to cook their food or to bring comfort to their gatherings. The world was beautiful. Yes, forests rich with tall trees, rivers that sang as they flowed, animals that roamed freely. But when the night came, there was a fear that pressed upon every heart. Children huddled close to their mothers, and the elders spoke in hushed tones, praying that the darkness would not linger too long. The only light at night came from the stars above, tiny specks scattered across the sky, and from the moon, who wandered alone, casting her silver glow upon the earth. The people often looked to the heavens and wondered, would there ever be a gift that could banish the cold and bring comfort to their lives? In those times, the animals of the earth and the people shared a bond closer than we know today. They spoke to one another in ways beyond words, bound by respect and understanding. It was said that the Great Spirit had given each creature its own wisdom, and when people listened with open hearts, the animals offered guidance and strength. One bitter winter night, when the cold had sunk deep into the bones of the people, they gathered around their elder. The elder's breath came in clouds of mist as he spoke. My children, my brothers, my sisters, tonight, we must remember the stories of the Great Spirit, for it is in these stories that we find hope. And so, the people listened, their eyes heavy with weariness, their hearts yearning for warmth. Far away, across the mountains and deep forests, the animals too had gathered. They had watched the suffering of the humans. They had seen children shiver and mothers clutch their little ones close, and in their hearts, the animals knew something must be done. The bear spoke first, his voice deep like the rumble of distant thunder. The people cannot endure this cold forever. We must help them. The wise owl turned her great golden eyes toward the sky. High above us burns a great fire, the fire of the sun. Perhaps, if we could bring even a spark of it down, the people would no longer suffer. The animals murmured in agreement, though fear stirred in their hearts. To steal fire from the heavens was no small task. At last, the tiny spider spoke, her voice soft but determined. I may be small, but I believe I can help. If one of us can reach the fire, I can weave a vessel strong enough to carry it back safely. The council of animals fell silent, for even the great bear and the swift deer could not imagine such bravery from one so small. Yet they listened, for wisdom can live even in the smallest of creatures. And so began the quest that would change the fate of humankind forever. The quest to bring the first fire to the people. In the heart of the forest, where tall trees swayed like guardians of old, the animals gathered beneath the pale light of the moon. The air was crisp, and the ground was blanketed with frost, but the warmth of their shared purpose glowed brighter than any flame. The wolf, his fur glistening like silver in the moonlight, lifted his head and howled a song of determination. His voice carried across the hills, summoning creatures of every kind, winged and furred, scaled and feathered, mighty and small. From the dark waters came the turtle, slow but steady, carrying on his back the wisdom of the deep rivers. From the cliffs descended the eagle, her wings cutting through the night as she circled above with keen eyes. From the thickets bounded the rabbit, swift and light-footed, his ears twitching with nervous energy. And even the smallest of creatures came the cricket, the beetle, and the quiet mouse, who hid among the roots yet wished to be part of this great moment. The bear rumbled with strength, the owl hooted with wisdom, and the spider sat quietly, waiting for her chance to speak again. Together, they formed a circle, as their ancestors had done when decisions of great importance were to be made. In the very center of the circle sat the tortoise, the oldest among them. His shell bore the marks of countless seasons, etched like carvings of time itself. When he spoke, his words moved slowly, but they carried the weight of truth. "My children," he said, "the people suffer, and so we must suffer with them. We share this earth, the rivers, the trees, the wind. The Great Spirit made us one family. If the humans are to live in peace, then we must help them. Fire will be their gift." His words settled into the hearts of every creature. But the eagle, proud and strong, tilted her head and asked, "Who among us is brave enough to reach the sun and steal a piece of its fire? It is far, far away, high in the heavens, and guarded by the spirits of the sky. To touch its flames is to risk death." The animals shifted uneasily. Some trembled, some lowered their eyes. The sun's fire was powerful, and many feared its wrath. But the bear roared, "I will go. My strength will carry me. I will climb the highest mountain and reach for the fire." The owl blinked slowly and replied, "Strength alone may not win this gift. The sun's fire is not easily taken. It requires courage, but also cunning." Then the little spider stepped forward once again. "My legs are small, and my body is frail, but my web is strong. If one of us can reach the fire, I will weave a vessel, a cradle of silk, to carry it back. The fire will not burn through my web, for I will weave it with the care of my spirit." The eagle looked down at her with wonder, and even the bear bowed his head. The council knew then that every creature, no matter how small, had a role to play. At dawn, when the first golden light spilled across the earth, the animals began their journey. The ground sparkled with frost, and the wind carried their breath like smoke. They walked, flew, swam, and crawled together, a great procession bound by hope. The deer leapt gracefully at the front, clearing the way through tangled branches. The wolf trotted beside him, his nose sharp, guiding them along safe paths. Above, the eagle soared, watching for danger. The turtle and the tortoise carried the wisdom of patience, reminding the others to rest when their bodies grew weary. And Spider traveled quietly at the edge, spinning tiny threads as she went, leaving a trail as delicate as starlight so she would never lose her way. Through valleys and across rivers, up hills and down into shadowed ravines, the animals pressed on. Their goal was the tallest mountain, the place where the earth seemed to touch the sky. There, they believed, the fire of the sun could be reached. After many days and nights, they arrived at the mountain. Its peak pierced the clouds, and its slopes were cloaked in snow. The wind howled fiercely, and the rocks were sharp beneath their feet. The bear stood tall and struck the ground with his paws. "This is my moment. I will climb, and I will take the fire." The animals gathered at the base, watching as Bear began his ascent. His great body moved slowly, but powerfully, each paw gripping the icy rock. Snow fell around him, and the wind tore at his fur, but he climbed with determination. Higher and higher he went, until he disappeared into the clouds. At last, he reached the summit, where the fire of the sun blazed in a sacred flame, guarded by the sky spirit. With a mighty roar, Bear reached out his paw toward the flame, but the fire was too strong. Its heat scorched his fur, and he stumbled back, his paw blackened with burns. The sky spirits warned him with voices like thunder. The fire is not for greed. It is for those who carry wisdom as well as courage. Bear returned to the circle of animals, his head bowed low. Though his strength had carried him far, it was not enough to claim the fire. The council knew the trial was far from over, and so the animals looked to one another once more, waiting to see who would dare next to reach for the sacred flame. After Bear's return, silence fell upon the circle of animals. The wind whispered around them, carrying the scent of pine and snow, and the fire in the heavens flickered brightly above, as if daring them to try again. The eagle, who had been watching with sharp eyes, spread her wings wide. Her feathers gleamed like bronze in the sunlight, and her shadow stretched long across the mountain. "I will go," she declared, her voice as steady as the currents of the sky. "The sun knows me, for I have soared closest to its face. I will take the fire and bring it back for the people." The others nodded, for if any creature could rise to such heights, it was the eagle. With a single powerful beat of her wings, she lifted into the sky, circling higher and higher, each spiral carrying her closer to the blazing flame. The world below shrank as Eagle climbed. The mountains became small shadows, and the rivers glistened like silver threads. The air grew thin and cold, but her wings did not falter. She pierced through the clouds, climbing higher still, her eyes fixed on the glowing fire that burned like a jewel in the heavens. At last, she reached the summit, where the sacred fire danced upon an altar of stone. Its flames shimmered with colors beyond earthly sight: gold, blue, and crimson all at once, alive with spirit. Eagle stretched her talons, swift and sure, and tried to snatch a piece of the flame. For a moment, the fire flickered in her grasp, and her wings glowed with its light. But the fire was fierce and untamed. It burned against her feathers, scorching her wings. She let out a cry that echoed across the valleys below, a sound that the people would remember for generations. The sky spirits spoke again, their voices rolling like storm clouds. "The fire is not for pride. It must be carried with care, with patience, with humility." Blinded by the brilliance, Eagle faltered and descended, her once proud feathers singed and darkened at the tips. When Eagle returned, the animals gathered close. She bowed her head, her wings heavy, and admitted, "My strength of flight was not enough. The fire cannot be taken by force." The bear placed a heavy paw on her shoulder, not in judgment, but in respect. Each attempt brought wisdom, and wisdom was the true path to success. The owl spoke softly. "The Great Spirit is watching. This gift will not come through might or swiftness alone. We must listen with more than our ears, and see with more than our eyes." The rabbit, small but quick, stepped forward nervously. His ears twitched, and his eyes darted about, but courage glowed in his heart. If strength failed, and wings failed, perhaps swiftness will succeed. "I am light of foot. I can dart past the flames before they consume me. I will three, por three. I will three." The animals formed a circle once more as Rabbit began his climb. Unlike Bear, he leaped swiftly from rock to rock, his small body nimble against the steep mountain slopes. He paused only briefly, his ears flicking at every gust of wind, then darted upward again, faster and faster, until he too vanished into the clouds. At the summit, Rabbit saw the sacred fire blazing brightly. His heart raced, but his legs carried him swiftly across the stone. With one quick motion, he leaped into the flames, hoping to grab a spark before it could catch him. But the fire was alive, and it clung to him. It burned his fur, leaving patches of black along his body, and his once white tail was singed into the short puff we see today. Rabbit squealed and darted back down the mountain, faster than he had climbed. The fire licked at his heels, chasing him until he collapsed before the others. Trembling and scorched, the wolf rushed to his side and lowered his head. "Brother, you are brave, but the fire is not a thing to be stolen in haste." The rabbit shivered and whispered, "It is too fierce, too alive. None can hold it." The animals sat in silence, their hearts heavy with doubt. Bear's strength had failed. Eagle's flight had failed. Rabbit's swiftness had failed. But none were shamed, for each had given their courage. Each had brought the council closer to the truth. It was then that the spider crept forward once more, her tiny legs barely disturbing the frost upon the ground. She spoke with gentleness, her voice so soft that the others had to lean close to hear. "You are all strong, swift, and proud. But perhaps the fire is not to be taken by force, or by pride, or by haste. Perhaps it must be carried with patience, in a vessel woven with care. I will try, if you will let me." Some of the animals exchanged doubtful glances. How could such a tiny creature succeed where Bear, Eagle, and Rabbit had failed? But the owl's golden eyes shone in the dark. "Sometimes, the smallest among us carry the greatest wisdom. Let her try. The council agreed, and so Spider prepared herself for the most daring journey of all. The animals gathered close as Spider prepared herself. Her body was tiny, her legs delicate, yet her spirit shone with quiet determination. "I do not have the strength of bear," she said softly. "I do not have the wings of eagle. I do not have the speed of rabbit. But I have patience. I have care. And I have my web, which can hold more than it seems." The animals bowed their heads in respect. Even the mighty bear lowered his gaze. For true courage is not always loud or grand, it is often quiet and steady, like the beating of a humble heart. The owl hooted low, her eyes gleaming with approval. "Go, little one. The Great Spirit watches over you." Spider began her journey up the mountain. Step B. Step she moved slowly, her tiny legs gripping the rough stone. The icy winds roared around her, and the mountain seemed endless. Yet she pressed on, while Bear had climbed with power, and Rabbit had leapt with speed. Spider climbed with patience. She paused often, anchoring threads of silk behind her, weaving a trail so fine that no one could see it but her. This web would guide her back, no matter how far she traveled. The climb took many days. By night, the stars blinked above her like silent watchers, and by day, the blazing sun reminded her of the fire she sought. Her body grew weary, but her spirit never faltered. At last, Spider reached the summit. There, upon a great stone altar, burned the sacred fire of the sun. It was beautiful, more radiant than any jewel, more alive than any creature. Its flames danced in colors of gold, blue, and crimson, swirling like the heartbeat of the heavens. The warmth of it touched her tiny body, filling her with awe. The sky spirits stirred, their voices deep and powerful. "Who comes to claim the fire?" they thundered. Spider bowed low, her small form humble against the vastness of the mountain. "I am but a small creature," she whispered. "I do not come for myself. I come for the people who suffer in the cold and the dark. They seek warmth, not for greed, but for life." The sky spirits grew silent. They had heard the words of Bear, who came with strength. They had heard the cry of Eagle, who came with pride. They had heard the squeal of Rabbit, who came with haste. But now they heard Spider's, was gentle, humble, selfless. The fire crackled, as though listening. Spider sat before the sacred flame and began to weave wheat patines. She pulled silk from her body, spinning it into a tiny basket, delicate yet strong. Her legs moved with grace, each thread placed with care. The sky spirits watched in silence. They did not strike her down, for her heart was pure, and her work was not to steal, but to carry with love. When the basket was complete, Spider carefully lowered it toward the flame. The fire flickered, testing the strength of her weaving, but the silk held true. Gently, a single glowing ember nestled into the cradle she had made. The light shimmered through the threads, glowing like a star captured in a web. Spider lifted the basket with steady legs and bowed once more. "I will carry this ember to the people, so they may know warmth and light." The sky spirit spoke softly now, like wind through leaves. "Go, little one. You carry the fire not with force. Bad Wheatlow, may it serve the people well." Spider turned and began her descent. The ember glowed in her woven basket, casting gentle light upon the dark path. Her silk trail guided her, shimmering faintly like moonlight as she retraced her steps down the mountain. The wind still howled, but now the fire's warmth shielded her from the cold. The rocks were sharp, but the glow lit her way. Down and down she went, never rushing, never faltering, her heart steady with purpose. At last, after many days, Spider appeared at the base of the mountain. The animals gasped in awe when they saw the faint glow, cradled in her webbed basket. The bear rumbled with joy. The eagle bowed her proud head. The rabbit hopped nervously but with admiration, and the owl spread her wings in quiet blessing. "You have done what none of us could," said Wolf, his eyes shining. "You have brought the fire to the people." Spider placed the glowing ember gently upon the ground. Its warmth spread through the circle, melting the frost beneath their feet. Together, The animals knew their quest was complete, but the story did not end there. The embers still needed to be carried to the people, to their village, where it could become the first fire.